Hello, and welcome to Purchase Broadcast Studios. I'm your host, Lucy Shearer. Upperclassmen have been reporting numerous problems with the conditions of the on-campus apartments. From black mold to bug infestations, students are becoming more and more disgruntled at housing for their lack of action on these issues. At Purchase College, upperclassmen can live on-campus apartments in either Alumni Village, the Old, or the Commons. The apartments, however, are facing much-needed renovations after students have been complaining about bug infestations, mold, and plumbing issues that have left students without access to functioning toilet and shower in their own living spaces. Many students at the beginning of the semester moved into their apartments to find water damage in the walls or ceilings, bathrooms and kitchens not cleaned efficiently, and damage to the overall structures of the apartments. These issues that seem to have become more and more frequent over the years or the semesters sparked a slight outrage on social media back in August after the Purchase College Instagram revealed a new Welcome to Purchase College electric sign outside the underpass under the PAC. The post was met by a flood of students criticizing the administration for spending money on aesthetics. User at Anna Kath wrote, "Can you fix the Central 45 parking lot? You know, the one that flooded and killed over 30 cars and left students without apartments on G Street?" Today I am joined by Skylar Hertz, a resident in Alumni Village, and Hope Chuzekian, a RA who works in the Commons last year. So, Skylar, what is your history with the upperclassmen dorms? Did you specifically choose to live in them, or was it decided for you?
Yes, so I chose to live in Alumni both last year and this year, my junior and senior year.
Okay. So what were the first signs that the dorms weren't meeting yours or your friends' expectations?
Last year I had probably less issues than I did this year when it all really started to happen. But I've always seen, cabinets falling off, doors very loose on hinges, safety, issues, a lot of different things, honestly. I've always heard friends who have lived in any sort of upper class apartment here have one issue or more.
Okay. So what are some things that have happened to you in your apartment?
Well, this year, I've had the great ladybug invasion, I like to call it. Started happening around the beginning of October. I've had to get rid of at least 10 ladybugs on average, I'd say, every 3 days.
Okay.
I have a dedicated vacuum that I call the ladybug perisher at this point. I've put in multiple work orders. The facilities people probably laugh every single time that they get a complaint from me, because it's so ridiculous. I'm being swarmed by ladybugs. They're taking over. I can't even live in my own apartment without sleeping next to 8 ladybugs. Yeah, and I have been told in response that they've talked to the exterminator and they call them beneficial pests, and they won't do anything. They refuse.
So do you feel that the current state of the apartments could potentially or already be an unsafe situation for students?
Oh, absolutely. If I'm dealing with something as small on a scale, I'd say, as ladybugs, I've heard of people having way worse, bug problems, rodent problems. There are so many issues that aren't being talked about that anything goes. If they're trying to hide the ladybug issue, who knows what else they're not responding to.
Okay. So a student from Alumni who lived in Alumni a few years ago was interviewed about his experience, and he made mostly positive comments, and they're going to cue a little clip of him.
All right, so what I like about Alumni Village is a lot of the people here are upperclassmen. Well, pretty much everyone, because you need I want to say 70 or something credits to get in. So probably some of these people since freshman year. It's an apartment, so you can cook and stuff. You have your own common room. The best part about Alumni Village compared to the other 2 apartments on this campus is you don't have to walk out to do your laundry. It's right inside every dorm, so yeah.
So, do you think that is evidence that somebody who was just here a few years ago had such a positive experience? Do you think that's evidence that the buildings are not being well maintained?
I think that it's not all bad and it's not all good. In alumni specifically's case, I think that the good outweighs the bad, and that's one of the main reasons that I chose to live there. Overall, the facilities compared to, even the old or the commons are way beyond the problems that you see or that I've heard about in the old. I can't even imagine, water dripping down from ceilings, coming through doors, way worse, to the point where I don't think I could actually sleep some nights in those apartments.
Right. All right. So we're going to move on to our next guest, Hope. So Hope was an RA in the Commons last year and is also currently is an RA in in Outback this year. I can't speak. So hello, Hope. So my first question for you is: so you were an RA in the Commons last year, and you were responsible for ensuring things were running smoothly and doing what RAs do. Did you feel that a lot of your residents were calling up about issues surrounding like the state of their apartment?
So with my RA role last year, I was more so of a programming RA, so I did more events. So I didn't really have resident complaints, but I am familiar with it being a very common thing throughout the Commons.
What were any issues that you faced yourself?
So, in my apartment, there seemed to be like maybe a crack within the foundation of my room. And so when it would rain, the water would flow in from inside and like my carpet would be soaked. And I'm sure that's where the bugs would come in through. And I would wake up to grasshoppers under my bed. And crickets under my bed. And they would wake me up in the middle of the night. And I, too, had a vacuum that I would use to get the grasshoppers. And I also, in the spring, had ladybugs just come in and make themselves at home, which I would also vacuum up.
It seems a vacuum's like the best like bug extermination tool.
Yeah.
So now that you're currently an RA in Outback, that's correct?
Yeah.
So how are the conditions in Outback compared to the Commons, and do you feel like the resident halls are just overall better maintained?
I do think so. Like on a weekly basis, I think we have people come in and make sure they're clean and everything. So that's a plus. And also, I have rarely had a bug in my room since, which is also good. And yeah, I think they are like just better overall, like especially with like the heating and the air conditioning. Like I can control it. Like in my apartments in the Commons, like we would have the thermostat thing, but would it work? Not really. So it's really nice to have a working one.
That's great. So Mike Kopis, the Senior Director of Facilities and Capital Planning, was asked to elaborate on his department's plans for upperclassmen dorms. In an email, he stated that although there were plans to work on the dorms, they said they were derailed by COVID due to the lack of on-campus residents. However, he added that there are several new projects in the works, such as replacing residential furniture, adding more card readers to doors, and making one of the alumni apartments more accessible for the disabled. So do you feel like that, this is a question for both of you, do you feel like that's a satisfactory response? Do you think or do you feel like that there could be a bit more?
I personally don't think that the amount of students on campus should jeopardize the living experience of being on campus. You're still paying the same money.
And Hope?
Yeah, I agree with what Skylar said. I mean, if you have more students on campus, you would want to ensure safe living conditions and accessible living conditions. So, yeah.
And one last question for both of you. So, what do you think the administration should do about this going forward in terms of budgeting and things like that? Like we said earlier, how they spent all that money on the sign, and that was a really big cause for upset back in August. So, what do you guys think that the administration should do?
I think the housing needs to be the first priority of facilities, because if you want to have students that are living on campus and, you know, have it be conducive to a learning environment, then you have to be able to have them live there in a healthy way.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, if they want to continue enrollment and have people want to enroll and, you know, have alum who graduate say purchase is worth it, they should invest in the student's experience, and they should definitely do better for housing, for sure.
Okay, great. Thanks for joining us today. I'm your host, Lucy Shearer, with guests Skylar Hertz and Hope Chuzekian. This has been Purchase Broadcast Studios. Thank you.